Over the last 4 episodes, we've seen Eden and Simon Peter's relationship kind of go through a transformation. In episode 4, we see the culmination of the 3 C's, is what we're calling them. So let's dive into it.
Welcome to the Snipe Life, where we look at creativity through the lens of Christianity.
And today we're going to be diving deep, as always, into The Chosen, but episode 4 has this particular scene that we want to talk about together. So Eden and Simon Peter have come to this culmination of, well, what we're calling the 3 C's. First we have the confrontation, then we have the confession, and then we have the consequences to that confession. So it's kind of interesting, but first we need to dive into the confrontation.
What's this?
There he is.
Josephat, Avram.
Simon. What happened to your ear?
There's a cut on it. What's going on?
Simon, we are brothers here.
Yes, if you ever find yourself in need of anything...
Look, if this is about what's going on in the docks, I don't know what you've heard. It's just a misunderstanding, all right? It's business.
What's wrong at the docks?
I lost the lure. What's up?
Ima is sick.
Ima? What happened?
She's coughing in fits. She has no strength to do anything.
And yet she does not sleep.
She's spitting up blood.
I don't understand. We just saw her last...
Month. Simon, it's been a month since you have visited Ima.
You know how it's been work, and I know I haven't been a good... Wait, why are they here? No. Look, I love your Ima like she was my own.
She loves you.
But we can't take...
Abraham and his family are all in my home
This
already.
is really bad timing.
When is a good time to fall ill, Simon?
Guys, the answer is no.
You knew it. You always told me.
What kind of man are you?
Son of Jonah. You always told me.
You have no honor, son of
You're
Jonah.
so good at punching your head.
Sucker punching me, yeah, where's the honor in that, huh?
Stop it! Joseph, Ibrahim. If Simon says it's a bad time, he has good reason it's a bad time.
Thank you, Eden.
A bad time for you, not for me.
Ani.
No. If I can't be there for my own Ima when she's sick, what am I? I'm nothing. I'm not a daughter. I'm
You'll
not a
always
sister.
be my...
Nothing.
Avram, Jeho, please, go be with your Ima or go outside and need some privacy.
Eden.
I'm not talking to your sister. I'm talking to my wife in my own home. And if you're not out of this room in 3 seconds, I will beat you both with my bare hands.
So I really like how Simon Peter and Eden both keep each other high within the relationship, right? Like, they're having family feuds, right? But Eden gives Simon his place, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I love how she says, if Simon says, then it's no, right? And then again, when Peter says, I'm not talking to your sister, I'm talking to my wife.
Yeah.
So I really love how they establish that type of relationship. Like, they're leaving and cleaving, but at the same time they're respecting, she's trying to respect and honor her mother, you know?
This is a hard role, right, for Eden here, but this confrontation kind of comes from all the way from the beginning of this episode, and even maybe even before this, right? Even from the very first time that we see Simon Peter, there's this confrontation that's going on with his brothers-in-law, right? And so we see this all the way through this episode. From the very first scene that he's with the Romans, he gets his ear cut, and that's a confrontation. And then later on, he's here at this scene, he's in a confrontation. Then he has a confrontation with his brother about the Messiah and all of that's going on. And then he has a confrontation with Matthew. And then he has another confrontation, right, with God later on in the boat in this scene. And so there's a lot of confrontation that Simon Peter is going through this whole time. And so we can obviously see that Peter is coming to a breaking point, right? It's more than just this one-time thing. He's digging himself a hole deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And he's to the point now where, like, what else is he supposed to do, right? He comes into the house and he sees his brothers-in-law and he sees his wife crying and he's wondering what's going on and he's trying to figure it out. But even then, even in the midst of this confrontation, he's still digging himself a deeper hole when he says, oh, you heard what's going on, but then he kind of makes a white lie about it still, right?
Yeah, he gets caught.
Yeah, absolutely. So Eden is in a really hard spot here, right? Like, she has to take care of her mom because, well, nobody else has room for her. But at the same time, she wants to honor her husband, but her husband hasn't been following God. So what do we do in that situation, right? What happens when your husband isn't following God, but you know that you need to do the right things? You know, what does that even look like in a marriage? Because when you have a marriage, right, when you're in a marriage, there's this idea that you guys have to listen to one another, right? And in the Bible, it says that the wife should be submissive, right? But what does that mean? Does that mean that the man gets to be a dictator? Absolutely not. Right? And in this situation, Simon Peter is failing. He is. He's not doing what God has asked him to do. He's not following the law. He's not following what he should be doing, which is why he's in the predicament that he's in the first place, right? Now, God is going to use that as a good thing to grow him and to grow Eden and to make this a good thing. But he's not supposed to be there in the first place. What is Eden thinking during this time as she's dealing with Simon Peter here?
Yeah, it's hard. Like, because I'm sure she's been praying this whole time. It's not like she hasn't. And that's something that I'm learning in this season, is that I'm a very independent and strong woman. But learning to submit and to give it to God, because he knows what he's doing and he has the best in mind for me, right? So just abiding in the Lord and trusting that if I pray for my husband, God's going to take care of whatever. And he's going to probably change my mind about some things that I may see in my husband, right? So even the things that I think, oh, this is annoying, like, God knows what he's doing, right? And he's growing all of us in the way that we should go, right?
Yeah, and I think in this scene in particular, right, like, Simon is in the wrong, point blank. It's not like this kind of gray area where it's like, oh, Simon may be doing some things wrong, but he's doing some things right. Like, he is digging himself a hole that he can't get out of now, right? And so now we're at the point when we move to the second C, which is confession.
I can't do this anymore. Please listen to me. I haven't been honest with you. There's no woman. It's not gambling. Look, a few days ago, I looked you in the eyes and I told you, I've got this. I lied.
What do you mean?
I've been fishing on Shabbat because I've had no choice. Andrew has texted. I've got texted. We haven't been able to keep up. I did some things I'm not proud of to fix it, and now it's gone bad. And we're in trouble.
We? What do you mean?
I'm in trouble. But we, because I need a miracle, or I can be in big trouble.
I'm not a child. Stop speaking in riddles. Tell me what's happening.
I could go to prison. We could lose the house.
What?
The cut in my ear, it's from a Roman.
Simon!
If I don't catch a ton of fish or get some help somehow, they'll arrest me.
Or kill you. They are Romans!
Yeah, so I need to go
Go
now.
where?
To fish. I gotta spend the rest of the week doing nothing but catch every fish I can and hope I can fix this somehow.
So here Simon Peter begins to explain exactly what's been going on. I think one of the most damaging things you can ever do in your life is to keep secrets. And for me, it's always been a struggle, right? Because you do something wrong, you don't want people to know about it, and so then you begin to cover it up. But what happens after that point, right? You can't just stop there. You have to continue to cover it up, and then you have to cover up your cover-ups, and Simon at this point has dug himself a hole that now he's buried in, right? But this is the first step that we know that Simon Peter is on the right track. Because he's finally doing what he needs to do. He's starting to confess. He's starting to show Eden that, you know, he does love her, that he does care about her, and that he wants her to know what's going on, because he can't do it by himself, and he knows that.
But ultimately, he's still trying to do it all on his own. Like, he's trying to go fishing, and he's trying to do all these things, and I think this is what is the culmination of what's coming next, right? Because she sees that he's still trying to handle it all on his own, and he can't.
Yeah, I think that's true, but I think that also a part of her is happy, right?
Yeah.
She's like, finally, like I'm hearing the real Simon here, you know, like I'm getting a full understanding of what he's going through, why he's been the way that he is. It all makes sense now.
Yeah. Like, where has this been? There's a sense of peace at that point, yeah.
But again, this confrontation is it's not even necessarily about Eden and Simon Peter. It's really about Simon Peter and God and where he's at with him.
Right.
And so all of this is kind of a metaphor for that, if you want to think about it that way, and how, you know, Simon Peter's even been running away from God or trying to keep secrets from God, which you can't, obviously, but it's kind of like him in that state kind of doing that. And so this moment for him is a release of all of that. It's a understanding of like, you know, he's not 100% there yet, and we see that throughout the rest of the episode, but he's beginning to have that struggle at least, right? Like, at what point during all of this has he even talked to God about what to do, right? At what point has it showed him praying or any of that? It hasn't, right? Because he's been far away from God for a while now, and we see that from Eden's response. And so, you know, in a marriage, right, as we go through life, whenever I'm having issues or whenever I'm struggling with something, I want to have the freedom and the knowledge that Vanessa isn't going to, you know, shoot me for what I've done, right? That she has an understanding that I'm imperfect and that when I mess up, we help each other, right? And we're not always perfect at that. We're not. Sometimes we want to run away. Sometimes we want to argue about it. Sometimes it's just too hard, right? But God will never do that to us. And I think that's what a lot of what this episode is talking about.
So now that he's confessed, we can move on to the consequences. Just because he's confessed doesn't mean that everything is going to be perfect and lilies in the field and rainbows and unicorns. Like, there's obviously going to be consequences to his actions. So let's go ahead and check that
Somehow.
out.
So that's why we can't take your Ima. It's just not possible.
No,
like...
she has nothing to do with this. I will not let you punish her for your sins.
Eden, you can't do this alone.
Can't tell me what I can or can't do. You have had your eyes closed around here, and God is with me, even if you aren't.
Sorry.
Where is your faith?
What?
You hurt me.
And faith isn't gonna get me more fish.
I'm not talking about tonight. I am talking about long before tonight. You've been different. Before it was gambling, and now it's working, and trying to do everything yourself. The popular Simon, fixing everything and charming everyone, all by yourself. And fishing on holy days without even thinking about it, with no respect for our God.
What about Pikuach Nefesh? We can break a commandment to save a life. Our lives are at stake
You
here.
don't know that, because you have not pursued the Lord lately. Not like the man that I married. That is why you are stuck, and you feel desperate, and now you're off to try to fix it yourself again. So go. I don't want you here tonight anyway.
I'm sorry.
I know you're sorry. I know. And I'm glad you're at least honest with me. But no more talking. Maybe God can get your attention now.
So I absolutely love how she calls him out. But it was so gentle. Like, that's something that I need to learn from Eden, is the gentleness that it takes and the love, right? Like, she asks a simple question: where is your faith? Right? Because that's what it comes down to, and she sees that, right? It's not that you're hiding anything from me. You're walking away from God. You're staying away from him.
Yeah, I think that's the catalyst to all of this, is that this is a conversation between Simon Peter and God that he needs to have. And he's not having it. Even after this conversation, right? Like, he still doesn't until way later on, until he realizes there's nothing else that he could possibly do. And I think that so often God brings us to that place of desperation before we can, you know, come to him. Before we have the intelligence to come to him, rather. I feel like we leave ourselves so much in this dark place, and we don't allow ourselves to go to God because we feel like we can handle it, because we feel like we're good enough, when we're not, and we should know that we're not, because we've failed many times. But even here, as Simon Peter is, you know, worried about this whole situation, and he's confessed everything, even in this moment when he's finally taking that first right step, he's still giving excuses, right? He brings up the Pikuach Nefesh, which is like this kind of rule breaking that you can break the Sabbath if it's to save a life, right? And so he's kind of justifying the whole situation by saying, well, I had to break all these rules. I had to break the Sabbath because we're in trouble. If I don't get this done, I could be going to jail and then you could die and all this stuff. And he's kind of catastrophizing this whole situation, right? But Eden doesn't stand for all of that, right? She quickly kind of comes back at him and, putting him in his place, to be honest. And again, with this whole submission thing, it's not about the husband being a dictator, but it's about them living life together, right? The husband is supposed to serve and to sacrifice for his wife, but Simon Peter's not doing that. He's trying to get out of all of this stuff that he's put himself into in the first place. And so it's unfair to Eden. And she knows that, and she knows that Simon's not doing what God has asked him to do, which is why she's being so hard on him.
Yeah, I love how she says, maybe God can get your attention now, because now he's hit rock bottom, right? And that's usually when he gets our attention. And there's nothing he can do but to run to God. And he's still, even when he's on the boat, he doesn't fully run to him. He's more complaining to him, right? He's another confrontation with God.
And remember, we see this kind of arc, right, for a lot of the characters throughout season 1 and season 2 of The Chosen. Most primarily, right, we think of Mary Magdalene as she's kind of going back into this old life. She's dug herself this hole again, and then Jesus redeems her in season 2. We see this in a lot of different places with a lot of different characters, from Simon the Zealot to Nathaniel to everybody that we see in season 1, even Matthew, right? They get into these places where they've dug themselves these holes, and they've found out how flawed they are, and then finally they have to kind of go back to God and seek out God and allow him to impact their lives, right? And at the end of episode 4, we finally see that moment with Simon Peter. It's not that everything's fixed, but it's that he's finally on the right path. He's finally going the right direction. And when that redemption happens, it's amazing. And I can't wait to talk to you about that. If you guys haven't heard, we just announced that we're taking a group to Israel in February of 2023. That's you guys coming with us and with a few other content creators, which is going to be amazing in 2023. If you guys want to know more of the details or to sign up for the trip, there's details in the description below, so make sure you check that out.
Hope you like this video.
And thanks for being part of our community.
We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Peace.